like to call to order the regular meeting of the Emeryville Planning Commission, October 25th, 2018. Charlie, can we please get a roll call?
Commissioner Donaldson?
Here.
Commissioner Hidalgo?
Here.
Commissioner Keller?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson?
Here.
Commissioner Young?
Here.
Vice Chair Guerrero?
Here.
And Chair Barrera.
Here.
All 7 commissioners are present.
All right. Next item on the agenda, we have a special guest. We are going to introduce Emeryville's new city manager, Christine Daniel.
We're very thrilled to have Christine here. She most recently came to us from the city of Oakland, where she was assistant city administrator, is that right? And previously she was the city manager of Berkeley, among many other things which she can fill you in on.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Chair Barrera. I'm legitimately thrilled to be here. I'm having such a great time. It's only been a month as of yesterday. As Charlie said, I do come most recently from the city of Oakland. I was the assistant city administrator, and prior to that, the city manager in Berkeley, and prior to that, the deputy city manager in Fremont. I did serve 2 tours in Berkeley. I started there in the 90s as a deputy city attorney. But I just wanted to come tonight and introduce myself to you. My door is open. My background is land use and planning. I was a land use attorney for many years, and I love this work. My first experience working with an appointed body was I was staffing the Planning Commission in Fremont. And I worked in Fremont for about 8 years, and I have to say, I enjoyed that assignment the most of anything. I just find the work that you do fascinating, and it's really important to the community. So the other reason I'm here is to just say thank you for your commitment to Emeryville. This body does such profoundly important work for this community, and I really want to thank you for your service. I've only been here a month. All of you have been here a lot longer. So I hope I can live up to your standards and the good work that you do. I'm really enjoying working with the staff. That's the other thing I wanted to say. It's just amazing to me what such a tiny staff is able to accomplish. It's an incredibly lean organization, as someone said to me last week, with effectively 0 redundancy. So I just want to appreciate Charlie and the whole team and community development. So I'm here. I'd like to talk to each one of you. My door is open, as I said, and thank you for your service. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have questions of me. I know Charlie put this on for an introduction, but if you have any questions of me tonight, I'm happy to answer them.
Does anybody have any questions?
Just glad to have you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your work.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You've worked in other cities. What stands out to you about, in your last month here in Emeryville? What has stood out, good or bad, anything?
Everybody's so kind.
All right, that's awesome.
Really, the community.
She came from Oakland.
I come from a lot of places. And I think after the first week, I sort of kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. Really, the community, the council, the committees, the staff, people are here to do the good work and to take care of each other. And that is what attracted me to this community and this position. So I'm really enjoying that.
Excellent. Well, welcome. We're really happy to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great meeting.
Thanks.
Thanks, Charlie.
Excellent. Next is public comment. So if anyone wishes to speak on an item that's not on the agenda, now is the time. Seeing none, I will move on. The next is the approval of the action minutes of September 27th, 2018. And do the commissioners have any comments on the minutes? Any corrections or comments? None? Okay. And I will abstain on voting on this meeting, but can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Okay.
All right, is that without exception? Then we will show 5 ayes and 2 abstentions, which would be Chair Barrera and Commissioner Hidalgo, who are both absent. Okay.
Okay. Next is the Community Development Director's report.
Okay, first with regard to City Council actions. They've had 2 meetings since your last meeting, and those 2 council meetings were on October 2nd and October 16th. On October 2nd, the council approved an annual cabaret license for Trader Vic's Restaurant for calendar year 2019. And following my director's report to the council on actions taken by the commission at your last meeting on September 27th, the council voted to call for review your approval of the Marketplace Parcel B temporary parking lot. And then at the October 16th meeting, they set the public hearing date for the review for November 13th. Also on October 16th, the council approved the form of the Affordable Housing Agreement and an Operations and Maintenance Agreement for the Sherwin-Williams project. The form Affordable Housing Agreement is a boilerplate document that staff will now use to finalize the affordable housing requirements for each of the 4 new buildings. The council approved the purchase of artwork for the city's annual purchase award entitled Silhouette, which is a grouping of stoneware vase forms by Emeryville artist Sarah Paloma. I believe it will be housed over here in just beyond the link next to the elevator on the 2nd floor. There will be a reception celebrating this purchase on Thursday, December 13th, starting at 5:30 p.m. here in City Hall, and that is immediately prior to your next commission meeting. So if you come a little early, you can participate in that reception, get some food, see the artwork, do some networking. As a reminder, the 32nd annual Emeryville Art Exhibition is open daily from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. through this coming Sunday, October 28th. So you haven't missed it yet. If you haven't had a chance to see it, I encourage you to stop on by. I've got a few more days. It's at 5700 Horton Street in the same building as East Bay Therapeutics, where their drone racing is going to be after the art show goes away. The council approved funding for a new playground and other improvements at Davenport Park, which is the small city park on Powell Street, immediately west of Trader Vic's. And they held a discussion of design concepts for the 40th and San Pablo Bus Hub, which you previously had a study session on, and they gave direction on the design of the project. The council directed that on-street parking should be removed. There should be bus-only lanes in both directions on 40th Street, a two-way bicycle facility on the north side of 40th Street, all the way from Adeline Street to IKEA, and that the bicycle facility should be at roadway level with a raised curb separating it from the adjacent bus lane. Staff is now working with the consultants to finalize the concept design based on this council direction. And finally, in other news, I just want to remind you that the city is hosting a Giving Thanks event in appreciation of all city community advisory committees, including the Planning Commission, at the Senior Center on Thursday, November 15th from 5:30 to 8 p.m. If you plan to go, and if you haven't already done so, please RSVP to Rochelle Connor by November 2nd. There is a flyer in your packets, looks like this, with the particulars, including Rochelle's contact information. And if you go, you will get to participate in a trivia contest of Emeryville's colorful history written by yours truly. Test your knowledge of our city's rather unique history. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Excellent. Any questions for Charlie? All right. Thank you, Charlie. So next is disclosure of conflicts of interest and ex parte communications. Commissioners, anything to report? No. All right. We'll move on to our public hearing. This is consideration of an amendment to a conditional use permit for Rochambeau Cannabis Retail Dispensary. They are adding 2,200, a little more than 2,200 square feet to their existing cannabis retail dispensary. So staff will give us our presentation.
Good evening, Chair Barrera, Commission members. Welcome, Commissioner Hidalgo. This is my first meeting with your presence here. Welcome to the table. So this item is an amendment to a conditional use permit that the Commission approved in February of this year, and it's located in the ground floor, one of the storefronts on the ground floor of the Indante complex. Just as a reminder of what that use permit that was approved, it included about a 2,200 square feet of tenant space on San Pablo. It's owned by Berkeley Patients Group, and the uses that were approved were on-site retail sale for cannabis products, on-site pickup, on-site tasting bar, which would exclude smoking and vaping, home delivery, And the hours of operation that were approved at that time were 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., which is consistent with the state law. And the deliveries were restricted between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. The applicant obtained an operator's permit, which was issued by the police department in the May of this year, and this was followed by a building permit to do their tenant improvements in June, and work has been progressing on this building permit. In the meantime, an adjacent storefront became vacant, and the applicant has decided and is requesting that this additional space be included for this dispensary, and hence the need for this permit. So if you look, just to get you oriented, this is San Pablo. Right here at the corner is the Muezzin restaurant at the corner of 40th and San Pablo. And what the space that was approved in February was the second space from the restaurant. So this is the new, which was a tax office before. So this is what is the proposed addition. And on this side is a barber shop, and then there's also a massage parlor. Just to give you this, so this is where the tax office used to be, and this is what they're going to be occupying. And then you have the hairstyle, there's a massage, and the last storefront along San Pablo has been vacant for a few years and is still vacant at this time. The amount of space is about the same as the amount of space that they had been approved for. They were approved for 2,200 square feet, and this is roughly about 2,100 square feet. So it's total of about less than 4,500 square feet. Just going back, in terms of parking, as you may recall, the parking for the dispensary is located in the existing parking garage. This garage has 90 spaces, which are for all the commercial uses along San Pablo Avenue, and therefore the parking that the additional space will trigger is included in this 90 space parking garage. The entrance to the garage is off Adeline Street, and this is the picture of the existing entrance. So none of that is changing from the previous use permit that was approved. The interior is changing. This is a little different floor plan. It's more straightforward. There'll be one door which is closest to where the parking is, and it's pretty self-explanatory. The retail sales floor is and occupies most of the area, and with the retail and processing occurring here, back of house uses are along here. So this is again a recap. Nothing is changing. As part of their entitlement, they will be providing community benefits, which include what's called 1% Public Program. Essentially what it does is provides time and money to ECAP facility. They also have a Helping Hands program, which provides medical cannabis to low-income patients. There are veterans and senior discounts. There's a public safety educational campaign. They would be supporting victims of the war on drugs. And they will be providing venue where local artists can showcase their artwork without charge within this facility. And they will also be doing some capital improvement for ECAP. And they will be involved in neighborhood cleanup around the existing bus stop along 40th Street. So in terms of these benefits, these have been outlined in the conditions of approval. So they are divided between the use permit conditions and the operating permit conditions. So the ones that are in the use permit are the ones more or less relating to land use stuff. So that's why you have the local artist displays that they would be doing without any charge. Fundraisers will also be held at this facility, and they'll be doing sidewalk maintenance and trash pickup. So these were already part of the conditions of approval, so it's not changing. And I'm just mentioning it as a recap. In addition to these conditions, there's also wayfinding signage between the garage and showing customers from the garage how to get to the dispensary. And also there's conditions which kind of ask that they educate their potential customers on their website regarding where the parking is for the facility. Because this is kind of an issue for the retail storefronts along San Pablo. A lot of times people don't know there is parking available for the users, so this is a way of kind of making sure that folks are not parking along the neighborhood and they're going to the garage. Of course, no smoking or vaping is permitted. In terms of planning regulations, nothing is really changing. They are still in the same zoned area where cannabis dispensary is permitted. There's no change in the FAR of the building, no change in the height of the building. In terms of auto parking, there's no change. It's the same number of spaces that there had been, and they'll continue to be there. So just as an explanation, why 90 existing spaces? So this use permit for the Andante complex was approved in 2001, and at that time our parking regulations were a little different. There were higher minimums at that time, so the calculation came to 56 spaces, and they actually ended up providing 90 spaces. So from today's parking requirements, there's more than enough parking, auto parking in this facility for the ground floor users. In terms of bicycle parking, the addition does not trigger any further parking. There is one long-term, one short-term. The conditions require them to put a bicycle rack on San Pablo Avenue in front of their door, and there are 25 long-term spaces within the garage. So in order to approve this, the commission have to make the conditional use permit findings. These are pretty standard, and they are similar to the findings that the commission made in February. And I believe that vacant space along this corridor has been an issue, and this is one of the ways to kind of ensure that the space is not doesn't stay vacant, and it will contribute to our economic diversity in the city. So with that, we are recommending approval, subject to the conditions of approval in the staff report. The applicant is here. If you have any questions from him, I'm not sure whether he wants to give a presentation.
I don't have a presentation, but I'll say a few words.
Okay.
Thank you, Miru. Yep, Miru, of course, perfectly captured all of our details and facts, nothing to add there. I guess I would just say from an operational perspective, and you might have seen from the quick look at the layout, really nothing really changing about our use. I think just our ability to actually perform the use better. If you recall some of the questions that we had during the application process from City Council and things, some of the questions were, is this space big enough, and will it fit, and will it work, and will it meet the needs of being a regional draw? And so you'll see like things we added in our floor plan now are a dedicated employee break room and just things like that we were kind of having to skimp on in the last time to make it work. But now that we have 4,000 square feet, we'll be a much better, I think, facility and flow a lot better. Additionally, we've continued our outreach to our neighbors and to the HOA. We're going to continue to do capital improvements on behalf of the entire Andante building. We'll be installing speed bumps, some new landscaping, even a security cage around the package area to just help a residential issue that we want to make sure we're improving and not in any way adding to the problem they're having about packages getting stolen and things like that. So it feels like for us a real good natural evolution, and we're excited that we got the opportunity to expand the footprint, and welcome any questions if anybody has any specifics about the project.
Any questions for Maru or Sean? Yep. Okay, go ahead.
Could you just go through real quick? This is my first time looking at this. I looked a little bit earlier today, but what goes on the sales floor? And you got a double door that leads out into the sidewalk. Can you explain like how someone is going to do a smash and grab there if they needed to? And also the reasoning having the security on the opposite side of the layout.
Right. So the front doors are the only access to the facility for the public. The security/IT office that you see on the south side is really for the security camera monitoring, the servers, things that need to be secured in that. But so the sales floor, those 8 tables in the middle, are primarily where product is displayed, much like in Apple Store, where you have one secured, tethered iPhone every few feet on a table. Not by any means, much
Sean,
product at all.
can you?
Excuse me. Sorry about that. So not much product at all, but small samples on each table. Same thing with the longer tables to the right. And then once orders are determined, then they're made at the long counter there where you see retail line. That's where folks actually do their transaction. The orders are filled and processing, handed through the window to the customer.
Is it in that same space they're consuming or trying to use this?
No consumption on site is planned at this spot. We do have, as the permit reads and the, with ordinances, we could do samples of small things like an edible product or something, maybe taste that. But because of the limitations of this mixed-use building and actually some faulty construction with the ventilation shaft that's nothing to do with us, but back from 2002, it just wouldn't work to do any real consumption there or any, vaping or smoking like thing. But so maybe there might be a sample of an edible product on some vendor's day, like you might see at the grocery store, but nothing significant.
No other questions from me.
Okay. Christine?
So I just have a quick question about the layout of your break area. Because you put the security and the IT kind of up at the building front. Is that clear glass there?
It is part of it. In this drawing, probably the first 8 or 10 feet coming north is all solid, and then there's glass storefront, and then it it's every other with the columns in the base. But so where it's security, all that back of house stuff, that wouldn't have visibility and that wouldn't be open. But everything that's in the public retail area, the sales floor, you would have visibility there.
Okay, yeah, no, and I think it was more about a consistency with our design guidelines and a livening of the street. And I know that you're constrained by your layout, and so you have back of the house to the side rather than actually in the back. So I just wanted to clarify that condition there. Okay.
I'm just wondering, so you are required to be checking people's IDs, make sure they're 21 years old and stuff. Are you planning on having like a security desk or station or something? It looks like people just walk in and wander into the sales area.
Yeah, no, there will be a security guard at the door, but no station or table or equipment. But yeah, an individual. That's checks IDs on the way in.
Okay.
Any questions over here?
Roughly, what does 1% work out to in dollars, just for my edification?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think, it's really hard to say. I would say that I think if we look at just the numbers across the state, an average dispensary in the state of California on some of the annual taxation reports, I think or the quarterly reports that we've seen 2 of them so far, I think in the range of $8 million a year is an average dispensary. So, hard to say what we'll have here in Emeryville. But.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to ask a question of Maru, but I could do that after. I'm going to go along with Commissioner Thompson. The security area seems a little misplaced to me because of the glass. And if that's a security place, that seems like a security risk to have your servers, your camera, monitoring everything right in an area that can be smashed and a breach, so to speak.
Right.
And then it also seems to me like maybe the person in an office would be better served by having a window there or the window in the break room and moving the security back within the building. So that's your call. But I looked at that going, the most vulnerable place in the building is where you put your security office. Seems a little precarious to me. So that's just a suggestion. So Maru, he was talking about there's no on-site consumption, just tasting. But I'm looking at the project description and I'm reading on-site consumption of cannabis product tasting bar. So are we approving the added square footage and on-site consumption or just the new square footage?
So we are adding only the square footage. The on-site tasting bar was part of the previous approval.
Okay.
So they still have the right to have that tasting bar.
Okay.
They're not showing it here, and I did ask him, so at this, they're not sure whether they will have it as a regular basis or not. So that's why they're not showing it on the site plan, but they don't want to relinquish that right.
Okay, but we're not doing any on-site consumption as the previous place we approved last month?
That is, yes.
Okay.
It is not as EBT.
Right, okay. So I just need to clarify that. Okay,
And just to clarify for you, I may have kind of not been clear, but the area where the security and IT in that back of house, that glass will be reinforced and covered up from the back. So it won't just be glass on that small part of it going forward.
Okay. All right, very good, thank you.
There's a door there,
Currently, yes.
so that'll be removed.
Yeah, and then added doors here because the doors on the right now, both of these, even though these were designed as 4 different suites, A and B, C and D are joined, and they both have A and B is one single door now. We have 2 single doors in C and D. We'll be combining those into the double doors then just in the northern part.
I don't understand what you're trying to say, but it's that.
So
So there were more doors, you're right, there were other doors that will not be in our finished design, but where there was just one single door, now we're using a double door on the north end of the project.
So it sounds to me like currently there is a door where a window will be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if they obtain their use permit today, or, their use permit today to expand, they will have to get their building permits to do tenant improvements. And those tenant improvements will probably include walls in the interior and whatever changes they need to make to the exterior, like changing a door out for a window. Is that
So you
correct,
see that
Maru?
existing space there, that grayed out area over to the far right? That's, behind that's how he's showing where that security spot
Right.
is.
Right. And
So there's a
that
large door there.
And that door will change to a window as part of your tenant improvements if you get this approved tonight, correct?
Yes.
And that would be grayed out as something they can't see inside of.
Right, yeah, and actually, yeah, exactly. Grayed out, secured from the inside. From the outside, it would look like a window. From the inside, it would have reinforced a wall behind it, but still keep the window look from the outside, but you just wouldn't be able to see through it. It would look like it was heavily tinted, but it actually has a reinforced wall behind it.
Just checking, thank you.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. No, it's a very logical statement that your most secure spot is right behind a pane of glass. Like, no, that wouldn't make sense. I understand.
All right, are there any other questions? No? Okey doke. So I will open up the public hearing for comments from the public. So if there's anybody that wishes to speak on this item, please approach the microphone. None? All right, seeing none. So I will close the public hearing and open it up for commissioner deliberation. Commissioner Keller, would you like to start us off?
I have another kind of a question. On the dais was another condition of approval. How does that relate to the approval of the conditions in the packet?
Thank you. I forgot to mention that are the operating permit conditions of approval that was supposed to attach to your packet but was not. That's why all of you have a copy of the operating permits.
So it's the operations.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And the reason why it was attached was to give you an idea of what the community benefits that have been documented and outlined.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing more.
Okay.
Nothing for me.
No comments?
I have one question as well. What kind of signage would be anticipated in the future on the street level? And what kind of, are you going to, these people are seeing this not based off foot traffic, or they're basing this off of calling ahead and there's an appointment?
Yeah, a combination of all those things, really. But the expectation is to put signage above the storefronts. Because of the HOA, their rules and the design parameters, we can't go above that line that kind of separates first floor, second floor, but you can see there's roughly 24 inches between the glass storefronts and the second level. So would likely do 2 signs there, kind of one for each bay with just logo. And then there's a sign plan that's already in the works. I believe it's already permitted, and I think that one even received a grant, but the HOA did to get blade signs for all of the commercial tenants up and down San Pablo. So we'd have 2 of those just as part of the HOA's sign program. And then the other plans, like Miru said, is we would do a lot of things inside the parking garage, wayfinding, making it clear that this is commercial parking, this is where the dispensary is, lead this way. And then the final part of the sign plan would be to get better visibility at the entrance to the parking garage on Adeline, both when you're coming north and south, to get some signage for all the commercial tenants, but really highlighting ourselves as really the anchor tenant there, that this is the parking garage for these commercial uses. And of course, that's going to require probably an additional permit. We'll be back to talk about that, but those are the plans.
Thank you very much. No other questions?
Okay. If there are no other questions, can I get a motion for this item, please?
I'd like to make a motion to approve this as written.
Oh, I'll second it.
Okay. All right.
Moved by Vice Chair Herrero and seconded by Commissioner Keller. Commissioner Donaldson?
Aye.
Commissioner Hidalgo?
Aye.
Commissioner Keller?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Young?
Aye.
Vice Chair Herrero?
Aye.
And Chair Barrera?
Aye.
7 ayes, the application is approved. This decision may be appealed to the City Council within 15 days.
All right. So we'll move on to Planning Commissioner comments. Does anybody have anything that they'd wish to say? No? Seeing none, I will adjourn the meeting. Wow.